Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be going over 10 reasons why you wouldn't survive in ancient Egypt. Yeah, you heard that right. We're time traveling back to the land of pharaohs and pyramids, but trust me, it's not all sunshine and chariots. We're talking scorching deserts, crazy creatures, and let's be real, medical practices that would make even the bravest adventurers think twice. Could you handle the heat? Could you handle the wildlife? Stick around to find out if you've got what it takes to hack it in ancient Egypt, or if you'd be better off sticking to the present day. Let's do this! Alright, first up, let's talk about the weather. It's not just hot, it's a relentless, unforgiving heat that seems to have no end. Imagine this, you're just chilling, trying to enjoy your day, but the sun is absolutely blasting you with heat. It's like stepping into an oven every time you go outside. We're talking 100+ degrees Fahrenheit, people, and that's in the shade if you can even find any. And forget about AC, forget about iced lattes, you're lucky if you even find a shady palm tree to catch a break under. Shade is a rare luxury in this scorching environment. Dehydration, sunburn, yeah, those are everyday struggles in ancient Egypt. Water is scarce and the sun is merciless. Think you could handle that kind of heat day in and day out? It's not just about surviving. It's about enduring the constant oppressive heat. I'm talking working in the fields, building pyramids, all while the sun is trying to melt your face off. These people had to toil under the blazing sun with no respite. It's brutal, guys, absolutely brutal. The heat saps your energy, drains your spirit, and makes every task feel like an insurmountable challenge. And that's just the first reason you wouldn't last 5 minutes in ancient Egypt. The heat alone is enough to break even the strongest of wills. So, you managed to survive the heat, congrats, but hold on, because now you're facing an even bigger problem, getting sick or injured. And trust me, in ancient Egypt, even a small cut could be a death sentence. Forget about antibiotics, pain relievers, or even basic surgery, as we know it. Their medical practices were, let's just say creative. We're talking leeches, spells, and potions made from who knows what. Imagine breaking a bone. They didn't have casts back then. You'd be stuck with splints and prayers, hoping for the best. And don't even get me started on infections. Yeah, let's just say ancient Egyptian healthcare is not for the faint of heart. Alright, so you've dodged the heat stroke and avoided any serious injuries. You're on a roll, right? Well, not so fast. Because in ancient Egypt, life was all about hard labor. We're talking back-breaking work day in and day out, farming under that scorching sun, hauling giant stones to build pyramids, digging irrigation canals with your bare hands. You name it, they did it, and they did it all without the help of modern machinery. Could you imagine spending your days hauling massive blocks of stone for a pharaoh's tomb? Or maybe you'd be stuck in the fields tilling the land under the relentless Egyptian sun. Trust me, after a week of this, you'd be begging to go back to your cushy modern life. Imagine waking up at the crack of dawn every single day, knowing that your entire day would be spent under the blazing sun. There were no weekends, no holidays, just endless work. And it wasn't just the men. Women and children also toiled away. Everyone had a role to play in keeping the society running. The sheer amount of physical labor required was staggering. And yet, they managed to build some of the most incredible structures in history. So next time you complain about your job, just remember it could be a lot worse. You could be working your toga off in ancient Egypt. Chapter 4. Reason number 4. Bread and bugs. Bon appetit. Welcome to the culinary world of ancient Egypt, where your taste buds are in for quite the adventure. Okay, so you've survived the heat, the lack of modern medicine, and the grueling labor. But now, let's talk about what you would actually eat after a long day of work. You must be starving, right? Well, brace yourself, because the ancient Egyptian diet was far from gourmet. Get ready for a reality check, because ancient Egyptian cuisine wasn't exactly what you'd call a 5-star experience. Forget about fancy dishes and exotic flavors. We're talking a whole lot of bread, a whole lot of beer, and if you were lucky, maybe some fruits and veggies. Bread was the staple, often made from emmer wheat or barley. Meat was a luxury reserved for the wealthy, so you better get used to a plant-based diet. The common folk rarely saw meat on their plates. Oh, and did I mention the bugs? Yes, insects were not just pests, but also a part of the diet. Yeah, insects were a common source of protein in ancient Egypt. Locusts, beetles, and other critters were often consumed. So, next time you're complaining about your vegetables, just be thankful you weren't born in ancient Egypt. Their diet was simple, and survival was the priority. Food storage was also a challenge. Granaries were used to store grains, but spoilage and pests were constant threats. Fish from the Nile was another important food source, but it wasn't always available. The diet was heavily dependent on the seasons and the Nile's bounty. Cooking methods were basic, with simple tools and pottery. Meals were often cooked over open fires or in clay ovens. Despite the simplicity, meals were communal and shared with family and friends, making dining a social event. Chapter 5. Reason number 5. Social climbing? Not a chance. Let's talk social hierarchy because in ancient Egypt your place in society was pretty much set in stone, pun intended. At the top, you had the pharaoh, living it up like the god king they believed they were. Then came the priests, the nobles, the scribes, basically everyone who wasn't a commoner. And at the very bottom of this social pyramid, you guessed it, the commoners. Farmers, laborers, the backbone of society, but with very little rights or opportunities to climb that social ladder. So unless you were born into a life of privilege, you were pretty much stuck in your lane. No rags to riches stories here, folks. Chapter 6, reason number 6, it's a jungle out there, literally. So you've braved the heat, the healthcare system, the hard labor, and the social hierarchy. You're doing pretty good, right? Well, hold on to your hats because ancient Egypt was also home to some seriously scary wildlife. We're talking crocodiles lurking in the Nile, venomous snakes slithering through the sand, and hippos that could crush a man with a single bite. And don't even get me started on the scorpions and spiders. These guys were everywhere and they weren't afraid to use their natural defenses. So unless you're a fan of playing real-life Jumanji, you might want to reconsider that trip to ancient Egypt. Chapter 7, reason number 7, no Wi-Fi, no way. Okay, let's be real for a second. Could you imagine a world without your phone? No scrolling through social media, no streaming your favorite shows, no Googling the answer to every question that pops into your head. Well, that was life in ancient Egypt. No internet, no electricity, no modern conveniences whatsoever. They didn't even have toilets. Can you imagine? You'd have to entertain yourself the old-fashioned way with storytelling, music, and games. And forget about ordering takeout. You'd be stuck with whatever you could hunt, gather, or grow yourself. Yeah, life without technology might sound appealing in theory, but in reality it would be a real struggle. Chapter 8. Reason number 8. Don't anger the gods, or the locals. Ancient Egyptians were deeply religious people. They believed in a whole pantheon of gods and goddesses, each with their own unique powers and personalities. And let me tell you, these gods weren't afraid to throw their weight around. Forget about natural disasters. Everything was the gods' doing. Drought, angry Ra, the sun god, flood, Seth, the god of chaos, is up to his old tricks again. You get the idea. And if you weren't careful, you could easily offend a god and bring their wrath down upon you. So yeah, maybe brush up on your ancient Egyptian mythology before you book that time-traveling trip. Chapter 9. Reason number 9, water, water everywhere. But you'd think that with the Nile River flowing right through it, ancient Egypt wouldn't have a problem with water, right? Well, think again. While the Nile was a lifeline for the ancient Egyptians, accessing its clean, drinkable water wasn't always easy. We're talking primitive irrigation systems, waterborne diseases running rampant, and the constant threat of drought. Plus, imagine sharing your water source with crocodiles and hippos. Yeah, not exactly the ideal situation, so next time you turn on your tap and take a sip of clean, filtered water, be thankful you weren't born in ancient Egypt. Chapter 10. Reason number 10. The plagues are back, baby. And finally, we come to the last reason you wouldn't survive in ancient Egypt: disease. Remember that whole limited medical knowledge thing we talked about earlier? Yeah, that combined with poor sanitation and a whole lot of close contact with animals, made for a breeding ground of nasty diseases. We're talking malaria, dysentery, smallpox, and a whole host of other illnesses that would send shivers down your spine. And without modern medicine, even a common cold could turn deadly. So, yeah, if you're a germaphobe, ancient Egypt is definitely not the place for you. So there you have it, 10 reasons why you wouldn't survive in ancient Egypt. From the scorching heat, to the terrifying wildlife, to the lack of modern conveniences, life in ancient Egypt was no walk in the park. But hey, maybe you're a tough cookie. Maybe you think you could handle the challenges of ancient Egypt. Let me know in the comments below how long you think you'd last. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more fun and informative videos. See you next time.